Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. So as you read from that title, today we will be making some vegan turkey deli meat, okay? And I actually tried this two different ways, which we will cover in today's video. And I was able to cut the ends of the bread off for my baby and make a turkey and cheese sandwich that he absolutely loves. If you follow me on any social media sites, you've already saw, but it turned out so good and so delicious that I had to come show you guys how I made it. So this is exactly what I did. Let's get into it. So I started out with two different tofu. The one on the right is the organic form, and then the one on the left, as you can see, is extra firm. So I'm starting with the organic firm, and I'm going to go ahead and press all of the water out of the tofu. Now this is an important step. You want to go ahead and make sure to remove the excess water. Now with doing this, I did notice that I did press a lot of water out of this one, and it wasn't that wet. So I did go ahead and crumble it into my food processor, and you don't have to do these in small crumbles because of course the food processor is going to do all of the work for us. But I don't know if you guys can tell, it doesn't have that much water. Even though I pressed the water out, it really does not have that much water. So if you're looking for a drier deli meat, then I would definitely recommend going for this organic form on the right, as you saw in the beginning of this video. But you just want to make sure you are crumbling it in small sections. Now I did notice that I didn't have the blade in my food processor, so I had to remove all of the tofu and then go ahead and put the tofu back into it once I put the blade in. And I'm gonna go ahead and add all of my ingredients, which will be listed down in the description. And we're adding soy sauce, some liquid smoke, we're gonna add sage, some poultry seasoning, nutmeg, thyme, garlic powder, paprika, and salt. We're also going to add about half a teaspoon of rosemary, and then also some black pepper and a little bit of basil. Once we've added all of the ingredients, we're going to go ahead and puree or blend this until it becomes like a smooth paste and looks like this. Then we're going to go ahead and get some parchment paper on a baking sheet and go ahead and empty the contents onto it. Now I am going to make sure to scrape the sides of the food processor to make sure I get each and every bit, because it does kind of process down to a little small amount. I'm then going to take a spoon and just kind of smooth it out on the parchment paper. Once we smooth it out just a little bit, I'm going to add a piece of parchment paper on top of the tofu mixture. And I don't have a rolling pin, but if you have a rolling pin, go ahead and use that. I do have a glass, which if you're not new here, then you already know. This is what I always use for my rolling pin. I'm just going to get one of my glasses, okay, out of the cabinet, and I'm going to just roll the tofu down until it becomes very smooth. Now, one thing you want to make sure is to make sure that you aren't wrinkling up the parchment paper. And then another thing to make sure is that you're not rolling it too thin, because the thin pieces will break in the oven, or they will crack, or they will be too hard. So you want to make sure that you're thinning it out just enough. Once it's smoothed out, we want to remove the parchment paper and go ahead and pop this in the oven for about 15 minutes on 450 degrees. So for the next method, I'm going to be using the other tofu block, and this one, you guys, is actually a lot wetter. So when I did remove it, I noticed that it was a lot more water in the package, and when I started to press it down, a lot of water started to come out. So this method, we're going to pretty much do it the exact same, but like I said, this one, since this one is wetter, what I would recommend is using this brand for the first method. And then the first tofu block that I used, I would definitely try to use it on this method. Anywho, what we're gonna do is go ahead and continue to press it down. As you can see, I've had to press this multiple times. The first block of tofu, I only had to press it once or twice, and all of the water was out. And then once it blended in the food processor, the consistency was not really runny. Now with this one, after putting it in the food processor, I did add up all of the same ingredients that I added the first time, but this one was a lot more loose or wet of a consistency, which, like I said, I would recommend using this one for the first method. Anywho, for this one, I did go ahead and add it into some foil instead of parchment paper, because what we're going to do is actually roll it up kind of like a loaf, or how you would do it if it had Vital Wheat gluten. Now, I did try to find Vital Wheat gluten everywhere in my local stores. I was not able to find it, but if we had Vital Wheat gluten, this is how we would do this process. Roll it into some foil and bake it in the oven in the middle of the rack on 450 for about an hour. So I started off first with this for about 15 minutes. By then, our first method was out of the oven, and this is what it looks like after about 15 minutes. Now, I am taking a plastic cup because my glass mouths weren't as big as I wanted my turkey slices to be. So I decided to use a cup, which it didn't work fully, so I had to cut the rest of the shape out. If you have like a food shape cutter, I would definitely recommend using that, because with the knife, the cuts kind of became uneven, but it did have the texture and consistency of turkey, y'all, and it smells just like turkey. It smells amazing. Since the plastic cup did not work, I did try to go back and do it with the glass, but it just wasn't cutting, so I decided to kind of cut some pieces with my knife. Now, if you notice, the pieces on the end that were a little bit thinner, they were a little too crispy, so I just decided to take my knife and kind of cut the shapes. After I was able to cut like a few little circles out of them, like I said, I did make my baby a sandwich that was delicious. After about 15 minutes, this is what the rolled up method 2 looks like. Not too cooked, and it was kind of falling apart. So I said I'm going to go ahead and put it back in for about 30 minutes, which I did. I actually ended up putting it in for an additional 45 minutes, which it turned out just like this. So it's not the right shape or the right texture, so I definitely wouldn't recommend this one. But the first method worked absolutely great. My baby enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I think it was a 10 out of 10. Make sure to try this recipe. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.